Welcome to the Healer Role Actions Guide. Here I'm going to go into a newbie level but in-depth look at each of the role actions healers have. All role actions should be treated like an extension of your skill set, being equally important to you and your party's survival. As the one in charge of making sure everyone stays alive, it's important to have a basic grasp on the uses of these skills. Healers have 6 of them, which is a large set of role actions, so it's a lot to take in. Let's get started. At level 8, we get Repose, sadly the least useful of our role actions. On the global cooldown and costing 600 mana, your target will be put to sleep for 30 seconds and you will stop auto-attacking, since an errant auto-attack would cause the enemy to immediately wake up. Any direct damage will cause the sleep effect to end. Any successive uses of Repose will have diminishing returns. The second use will sleep the enemy for 15 seconds, and the third, 7 seconds. Afterwards, the enemy will be immune to sleep. For solo content, this helps you battle enemies at a low level. If 3 enemies attack you at once, you can put 2 to sleep and kill the third before they wake up. Then put 1 to sleep and kill the other. This allows you to only have 1 enemy attacking you at a time. This also, unfortunately, quickly wears out its welcome as you level up. By the time you hit level 50 on any of the healers, you have so many tools at your disposal that putting enemies to sleep becomes a waste of time, including, but not limited to, AoE skills. Plus, by nature of being a healer, you can heal yourself up whenever you are in danger of dying. This especially applies to the leveling up point. Your enemies may also be getting stronger, but your toolkit becomes so powerful that you could easily take on an army between all of your abilities. In dungeons, this is absolutely worthless. I can think of one specific boss where it was useful for making the fight safer to do, but in any case, except the tank dying due to their fault or yours, sleep won't do anything. Even then, it probably still won't do anything because of your DPS allies attacking everything. Remember, the smallest attack will instantly wake the enemy up. Everyone would have to instantly recognize the death of the tank and your intent to sleep the enemies at the same moment. At that point, the easier option is to just heal through the lack of a tank. Keep it around for the rare times you can make use of it, just don't expect to most of the time. At level 10, we obtain the spell Esuna. This global costs 400 mana and removes a single negative status effect from your target. It also has an extremely low cast time to make sure you are able to remove an effect as soon as possible. However, not every negative status can be removed. Our Morble friend here is going to show us what we can Esuna. All of these debuffs with white lines above them are debuffs that can be removed with Esuna. In the early stages of the game, there are tons of debuffs like this that can be removed. Similar enemies tend to always have their debuffs work the same. For example, most, if not all Morble enemies can have their debuffs removed. If an enemy has a debuff that can't be removed, typically others of the same type can't either. But of course, exceptions apply everywhere. You'll just have to learn every specific time you should use it as you play. Even if everyone does everything right though, sometimes mechanics happen that force poisons just to make you use Esuna. In the more casual content, it's just poisons, which can be easily healed through. In harder content though, even in just the more casual raids, there can be debuffs that are guaranteed death without using Esuna. It's rare, but it is worth noting. If nothing else, I bring this up to note you should always keep an eye out for the white line, since the threat a debuff can pose can be benign or a death march. At level 18, we have Swiftcast, the first off global cooldown role action. On a 60-second cooldown, your next spell will have no cast time. By now you've noticed that your raise has a massive 8-second cast time. This is 0 seconds when used with Swiftcast. If there is one skill you should always leave alone until you need it, it's Swiftcast. It's such a strong use, I can't blame anyone for doing it. However, you shouldn't, because it has many more uses. If you have no available off-global cooldowns, you can use Swiftcast to get out a quick emergency heal, be it single target or AoE. This is especially useful when you are on the move. The further you get, the more errant or targeted AoEs you'll have to avoid. Or maybe it's a raid, and you're dealing with lots of mechanics. The further you get, the less you will be able to act like a turret. You'll have to learn how to be mobile, even as a healer. One final use is for doing DPS on the move. You don't have a lot of DPS GCDs, and some of them are even instant cast, but hey, Swiftcast totally is fun. With level 24, we get Lucid Dreaming. On a 60-second recast, Lucid will regenerate your MP over 21 seconds at a potency of 50 per tick of regen. This translates to 500 MP per tick and a total of 3500 MP. Simply put, if you're missing a large chunk of MP, use Lucid. Depending on your level and which healer you're playing, you're going to go through mana at a different rate. Low levels, around level 24, you have maybe one expensive spell, but even then, constantly spamming it can cause you to run out of MP. Generally, as long as you use Lucid under 8000 mana, you should be fine to use it anytime you want. However, keep in mind time to kill, and never use this between fights unless you died or did something really bad and have no MP. HP and MP regen outside of battle is massively increased, with MP being 600 per tick. That's essentially a permanent, stronger Lucid Dreaming outside of combat. Not only are some jobs more mana intensive than others, some encounters are more mana intensive than others, but in general, keep your mana as high as you can manage for if things go south. Raises are definitely not cheap. Up next at level 44 is Surecast. On a 120-second recast, you gain a 6-second immunity to having your spells interrupted by enemy attacks. You also nullify most knockback and draw-in effects. To quickly get the interruption aspect out of the way, it is mostly just a solo content effect. You can also consider using it if the tank dies and enemies start attacking you. You'll be able to get about 3 heals out in the duration of this while you wait for the tank to finish reviving from a Swiftcast raise. The knockback and draw-in effects part of this skill is the important one. Knockback effects are very common, especially in trials and raids. Due to being a magical job, you need to stand still to do, well, anything. If you need to cast an AoE heal as a boss is about to do a knockback, and you only have your AoE globals available, you don't have much choice. You have to use Surecast in order to be able to finish the cast, or get knocked back in the middle of it. Let me also take a moment to reinforce the most part of the skill description. There are very few knockbacks that go through it, but when you run into one, it becomes extremely apparent. In the current raid tier as of the making of this video, a lot of knockback effects just completely go through Surecast. This could mean in future content, there will be a lot more enemy attacks that will push you back no matter what, but there's no way of knowing for sure if Surecast will work until you try it. But be prepared for it to fail, especially if the edge of the arena is a death pit. Finally, we have Rescue at level 48. This is absolutely the best and worst skill of the healer role actions. On a 120-second recast, you instantly drag your targeted ally to your position. This can only be used on your party and in combat to prevent trolling. In addition, some debuffs block Rescue, and one set of buffs does too. Surecast has a physical job version called Arm's Length, and both work to block Rescue. Let me emphasize, Do not troll your party members with rescue. If you use this, have good intentions. If you rescue to troll, you can and will be banned for it. It seems obvious enough, but I have to emphasize it just to be sure. Rescue responsibly. Anyway, using this skill can save lives better than any other. It instantly yanks allies out of the way of danger. If you see an ally is going to be sitting in an enemy attack, you can pull them into safety. It could be an AoE circle they're slow to react to, or maybe it's an invisible AoE you can dodge. Or, let's get back to Surecast. If the boss is doing a knockback attack, and your allies are new, they probably will get knocked off the arena since they don't know it's a knockback attack. Rescue them into a safe position right before the knockback goes off, and you'll have saved their life. Every healer also has bubble abilities that buff all allies inside of it, or explode into a powerful heal. Rescue can force players into the bubble. Most jobs have no excuse to avoid the bubble, so forcing an ally into it will probably save their life. Or at least force them to be healed a little before they immediately run out of it. Melee, ranged, and tanks are the safest players to rescue. Mages, as well as your fellow healers, are much less safe to rescue. They may still have time to dodge and intend to do so, but trying to finish a cast before they start moving. If they complain about that, just apologize and say you were trying to save them if you rescue them and lose them a cast. Someone losing a cast isn't worth their dead body, so don't be afraid to try and save people with rescue. And while most of you probably have no interest in doing so, high-level raid mechanics are a prime spot for using rescue. There are many strategies in high-level raiding that have the healer use rescue to benefit the team. Often it is because someone has to run far away from the boss. The healer rescues them back in after they resolve their mechanic so they can keep uptime on the boss. Unfortunately, this is an example you can really only use in a static environment. But I had to bring it up just to show you how resourceful you can be in using rescue. Thank you for watching my healer role actions guide. Hopefully this has demonstrated the importance of your role actions. Be sure to ask any questions on anything you don't understand or I may not have covered in the video. Make use as best you can of all of your toolkit and keep your allies alive as your enemies suffer. May the power of an Nidhogg's lay waste to your enemies.